There's no way this happened.
One of the biggest and most stunning trades in the history of the league.
No one in the NBA saw this come.
Luka is as special as Bron.
You know, he's a really good basketball player.
You got swag.
Got it. Okay.
You got swag. There you go. Man, he's so cool out there. I mean,
I play for the team, and I'm going to play with a sense of joy.
I'm just excited to be here to start this new journey. It's like a dream come true.
No American high school mixtapes, no college draft hype machine, just a skinny kid from Slovenia with a ball in his hands and a fire in his eyes. And now, he's one of the biggest names in the NBA.
Because I love everything about his game, love everything about him.
He's tough.
The way he plays the game reminds me of the way I play the game.
He's super fun to watch. He does everything so well. He gets everybody involved.
His size, check that. I mean, he's gigantic. He's 6'8", point guard. He's 225 pounds. He has the ball on the string, and more importantly, his
Luka Dončić isn't just a star, he's a generational talent. The kind of players that only come around once every decade, with every step back three, every impossible pass, every clutch performance that leaves crowds stunned. Luka reminds us that we're witnessing something special, something rare. He was supposed to be Dallas's future, the franchise centerpiece, the hero they could build around for the next 20 years. But in a move that shook the basketball world, they let him go. A blockbuster trade sent him to Los Angeles, and in doing so, the Mavericks may have created a monster. With the weight of betrayal behind him and the blinding spotlight of Hollywood ahead, Luka's not just trying to prove a point, he's trying to take over the league. From the streets of Slovenia to the bright lights of LA, this is the story of Luka Dončić. Doncic was born on February 28, 1999 in Ljubljana, the capital of Slovenia. Basketball wasn't just in his blood, it was practically in his cradle. According to his family, baby Luka first touched a basketball when he was only 7 months old, and by the time he was a toddler, he was playing with a miniature hoop in his room. His father, Saša Doncic, was a well-known Slovenian professional player, and from a young age, Luka tagged along to games. He would help sweep the gym floor during his dad's games and then sneak onto the court at halftime to shoot around. Barely big enough to heave the ball, but already in love with the sport. He had a basketball in his hand since he was 7 months old. Remember Goran Dragic, a Slovenian NBA player who was teammates with Luka's father. Even as a little boy, Luka displayed a natural feel for the game, mimicking the passes and moves that he saw. As Luka grew, it became clear that he was no ordinary child. He was a phenom in the making. By first grade, his school coach, Rock Desmond, noticed the kid was different. He was taller than all the guys his age, and he really moved with the ball well. You could feel that he's really talented, Desmond said of Luka's first practices. To keep Luka challenged, coaches often had him play against boys several years older. He didn't always have the size advantage then, so he learned to rely on skills and smarts, sinking long-range shots and outsmarting his opponents with crafty moves. He wasn't intimidated. In fact, Luka loved the challenge. He took it as a challenge every time he dealt with older guys, Coach Desmond recalled. The size didn't matter to him. This competitive fire in Luka was evident even in grade school. By age 7, Doncic was already playing organized basketball with his school's team. Around the same time in 2007, his father signed with top Slovenian club Union Olympia, and Luka joined the club's youth program. What happened next is local legend. At Luka's very first practice with Olympia's under-12 team, the coaches quickly realized the 8-year-old was on another level. He dominated so completely that only 16 minutes into the session, they bumped him up to scrimmage with the under-14 team against boys several years older. He finished that day not with his peers, but with the 1996 born group, kids 3 years older than him, and he was holding his own as an 8-year-old on the court. It was a glimpse of the prodigy to come.
First practice, when he came to the older guys, to 3 years older guys, and he showed us some incredible moves in the start. So we very soon we knew that he will become a great player.
Luka's days as a child were consumed by basketball. He was always in the gym, often annoying coaches for extra practice. One of his youth coaches recalls trying to give Luka a day off. I often told Luka, tomorrow you are free. Be at home, play with your toys or something, you have to rest, Smolnikar said with a laugh. The next day at 12, his parents would be calling him, saying, please, can Luka come to practice? He's begging to play. His passion to compete was unbelievable. Doncic simply couldn't stay away from the court. On off days, he'd be shooting around or joining older groups' practices, hungry to improve. By age 12, he was a well-known prodigy in Slovenia, dominating junior tournaments with triple-doubles and dazzling skills. At this point, he stood about 6'2", and he could do it all. Handle the ball, pass, rebound, and score. Coaches were impressed, not just at his physical talent, but also at his basketball IQ and competitive spirit. They described him as someone who was wired differently, joyous and full of life, but also confident with a killer mentality. This was Luka's description even before his teen years. Off the court, Luka was an easygoing, smiling kid who loved to joke around with his friends. But the moment the game was on, he flipped a switch into a fierce competitor who hated to lose. This dual nature, lovable kid off the court, assassin on it, became a hallmark of Doncic's character. By his early teens, Doncic had outgrown the local competition and was drawing attention from beyond Slovenia. At just 12 years old, he traveled with Olympia to compete in youth tournaments across Europe, where he routinely earned MVP honors. In one tournament in Rome, the 13-year-old Luka dropped an eye-popping 54 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists in the Under-13 championship game, carrying his team to victory. Shreko Bester, Olympia's longtime basketball director, watched him in awe. In that moment, I told someone that he reminded me of a young Drazen Petrovic, Bester said, comparing Luka to one of Europe's all-time greats. He was a killer with a baby face. It was so easy for him. The secret was well and truly out. Luka Dončić was a phenom destined for big things. One of the teams that had taken notice was Real Madrid. That's right, the Spanish club that was famous for being incredibly good at football. Impressed by Luka's performances, Real Madrid invited the 13-year-old to join them for a prestigious Under-14 tournament in Spain. Despite playing with unfamiliar teammates, Luka shone, dropping 20 points in the final against Barcelona to help Real Madrid's youth squad win the 2012 Mini Copa. Madrid had found the Cristiano Ronaldo of basketball. It was the beginning of a love affair between Doncic and this storied historical club in Real Madrid. So it came as no surprise that later that year, in September of 2012, at just 13 years old, Doncic made the life-changing move to join Real Madrid's youth academy. He left behind his home, his school, and his beloved mother and father in Slovenia to pursue his basketball dream in Spain. It was hard, really hard, especially the first 2-3 months.
It was tough, because when I was younger, I only eat pasta.
Luka admitted it was a leap of faith for a boy barely in his teens, but one he was determined to take. On the wall of his old grade school in Ljubljana, there's a quote that's attributed to him. "I never dreamed of success, I worked for it." Those words rang true. Luka was ready to work for his dreams, no matter how far from home it took him. In Madrid, Luka Dončić quickly blossomed from a boy wonder into a teenage sensation. Real Madrid's basketball academy is one of the best in the world, and Luka wasted no time proving he belonged. He learned Spanish within a few months and bonded with his new teammates.
Actually, I almost didn't speak English either. I just know how to say hello, how are you, and that stuff. Nobody spoke my language. I didn't speak Spanish, so it was really tough, and that's how I learned Spanish so quick. In 3 months, I was just
adapting to a new culture while living on his own at 13, an experience that forced him to mature quickly. On the court, he took full advantage of Real Madrid's top-notch facilities and coaching. In 2013, a year after arriving, Luka led Real's Under-14 team to another junior championship, earning tournament MVP in the Mini Copa for the second straight year. It was clear he was on the fast track to stardom. Coaches at Real Madrid pushed Luka to test himself against older competition, just as he had done in Slovenia. As a 15-year-old, he often practiced with Real Madrid's senior team, a squad loaded with professional veterans and European stars. But Luka wasn't intimidated at all. He soaked up the experience like a sponge. He studied the moves of Sergio Llull and Rudy Fernandez, learned from the coaches, and impressed everyone with his work ethic and fearlessness. Real Madrid's head coach, Pablo Lasso, saw something special and did not hesitate to give the kid a chance. On April 30th, 2015, at just 16 years of age, Luka Dončić made his professional debut for Real Madrid's first team, becoming the youngest debutant in the club's history. In a Spanish league game, the lanky teenager checked in, a moment that Luka had dreamed of, and scored his first points on a three-pointer. It was official. Luka Dončić was a professional basketball player. Over the next 2 years, Doncic's role with Real Madrid steadily grew. By 2016-2017, still only 17 years old, he was a regular rotation player for Real in both the Spanish League and the EuroLeague. Even among grown men, Luka's talent was so obvious. In one EuroLeague game in January of 2016, Real Madrid faced the EuroLeague powerhouses, CSKA Moscow. The scouting report suggested that teenage Doncic might be a defensive liability, someone that CSKA could bully or ignore. Instead, Luka stunned them. He drained 3 3-pointers in a 2-minute span and logged 12 points and 5 rebounds in just 13 minutes off the bench. His composure under pressure left the opponent shaking their heads. I looked at my scouting report and thought to myself, this kid is 16 years old, recalled Kyle Hines, a CSK veteran, everyone had expected the teenager to just crumble, but instead Luka thrived. His thirst for pressure was already evident, and he played with the calmness of a seasoned professional. Every game, every clutch shot signaled that Luka Dončić was not just some prospect, he was already one of Real Madrid's key players. While he was lighting up European arenas with Real Madrid, Doncic was also making noise on the international stage. In 2017, at just 18 years old, Luka joined the senior Slovenian national team for the European Championship, EuroBasket 2017. Teaming up with his idol turned teammate now Goran Dragic, Luka helped lead tiny Slovenia on a miraculous undefeated run. In the quarterfinals, the teenager dropped 27 points and 9 rebounds to lift Slovenia over Latvia. In the semifinals against Spain, he nearly had a triple-double as Slovenia stunned the defending champions. Although Luka sprained his ankle in the final, Slovenia went on to win the gold medal, the nation's first ever European title. Doncic was named to the all-tournament team for his outstanding play. Those who saw him on that stage saw a preview of just how clutch he can be. He's fearless. He loves to compete. He loves to be on the biggest stage, said Slovenia's coach about Luka Dončić. Despite being so young, he played with a confidence beyond his years. I feel like I want to be the hero of the game, you know, Luka said. Every time I wanted the ball in my hands. From the very beginning. It was the mentality of a born winner. It's also great to see that Doncic always wants balls in his hands. The climax of Doncic's European career came in 2017-2018, a season for the aged. Now at 19 years old, Luka was the undisputed star of Real Madrid. Despite his youth, he led the team through a gauntlet of tough games all the way to the 2018 EuroLeague Final Four in Belgrade. There, on European basketball's biggest stage, Luka delivered. He guided Real Madrid to win the EuroLeague championship, capping it off with an unbelievable performance in the final. Doncic's season was so good that he swept every major individual honor. He was named the EuroLeague MVP and also the Final Four MVP after averaging 15.5 points in those decisive games. On top of that, he earned the Spanish ACB League MVP and helped Real win the Spanish League title as well. 3 MVP awards in one season: EuroLeague, EuroLeague Final Four, and Spanish League. That's unheard of for a teenager. Europe hadn't seen a talent dominate like this at such a young age. In just 6 years, Luka had risen through Real Madrid's ranks from a homesick 13-year-old academy kid to the very best basketball player in all of Europe. Fans in Madrid chanted his name and wore his number 7 jersey with pride. That number is kind of iconic in Real Madrid now. Not only did Luka Dončić wear it, but so did Cristiano Ronaldo. He was so good that everybody knew that his time in Europe was drawing to an end. The NBA scouts, well, they'd seen enough. Luka Dončić was destined for the next level. In June of 2018, having achieved everything possible in Europe, the 19-year-old Doncic declared for the NBA draft. American audiences had heard the buzz: a teenage prodigy, a EuroLeague champion, a player seasoned beyond his years. But there was still intense speculation about how high he'd be selected. Either way though, Luka was about to take the biggest leap in his journey, a jump across the ocean to the world's top basketball league. The NBA draft of 2018 was filled with anticipation for Luka Dončić. Here was a European teenager who had dominated the EuroLeague, looking to test himself against the sport's greatest. On draft night in Brooklyn, his dream became a reality. The Atlanta Hawks selected Doncic with the 3rd overall pick.
Third pick in the 2018 NBA draft, the Atlanta Hawks select Luka Dončić from Ljubljana, Slovenia, and Real Madrid.
Moments later, a trade was announced that would define his NBA trajectory. You see, the Dallas Mavericks had kept a very close eye on Luka, and they engineered a deal. They would trade their own pick, the 5th overall one, and a future first rounder to Atlanta in exchange for Doncic.
The Hawks will select Luka Dončić with the 3rd pick. They will send him to Dallas, and if Trae Young is still there at number 5.
And just like that, Luka became a Dallas Maverick, the franchise that had been home to another European legend, Dirk Nowitzki, for 2 decades. Doncic put on the Dallas Mavericks hat and was beaming with excitement.
I'm glad, I'm just happy to be in the NBA, I'm just happy to be a part of that.
His dream had come true, and everyone was seeing it live on television. Doncic arrived in Dallas as one of the most accomplished teenagers ever to join the NBA, but he still had to prove himself in the fast physical world of the NBA. That continues to be the #1 concern that Americans have over European players. Can they adapt to the speed and intensity of the world's best league? Well, any doubt about Luka vanished quickly once the season began. From his very first games in the 2018-2019 season, it was obvious that he was spectacular. In his NBA debut, he put up 10 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists. But within weeks, he was putting up 20-point performances regularly. Fans in Dallas immediately fell in love with his game. The step-back three-pointers, the crafty no-look passes, and the fearless drives to the basket. It was clear that this 19-year-old could not just hang with the NBA players, he could cook them. Once again, looking back at these highlights, Doncic used to be very very skinny. Guess it only took a couple of years for him to find the all-you-can-eat buffets in Dallas. By mid-season, Luka was putting up historic numbers for a rookie. In January 2019, he recorded his first triple-double, making him one of the youngest players in NBA history to do so. He averaged over 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists per game as a rookie, something not seen since the great Oscar Robertson. Night after night, Luka was delivering highlights. A one-legged game-winning three here, a dazzling full-court pass here. Dallas hadn't seen such excitement in years. Crowds would chant Luka as he took over games in crunch time. Longtime Mavs fans also saw a poetic passing of the torch. Doncic had the privilege of playing his rookie season alongside a 40-year-old Dirk Nowitzki, who was in his last NBA season. It really is funny that at any job, your best friend can be a 40-year-old. In one game, Luka even assisted Dirk on a basket, a symbolic handoff from the old Mavericks icon to the new generation. Even Dirk, who's a future Hall of Famer, was amazed by Luka from day one. "It's not some guy coming in and being intimidated," Dirk said during All-Star Weekend. "He is a really good player who believes in himself and it shows. I want him to do great, but he doesn't need me to hold his hand." It's hard to believe he's only 19. As the season went on, Luka mania swept through the NBA. Though he was just a newcomer, Doncic nearly earned a spot in the All-Star game. He finished second among the Western Conference forwards in fan voting, only behind the GOAT, LeBron James. We were seeing an almost unprecedented level of support for a rookie. Media around the league marveled at his maturity and confidence. The Mavs, who had struggled in the years after Nowitzki's prime, suddenly had a new face for their franchise and a bright future. Of course, this emotion has now aged like milk, thanks to one man, Nico Harrison. Congratulations, buddy. You ruined an entire franchise single-handedly. Anyways, when the 2018-2019 season ended, the verdict was unanimous. Luka Dončić was the best rookie of the year. In fact, he was a unanimous selection to the all-rookie first team after averaging 21.2 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 6 assists. And he received the Rookie of the Year trophy in a landslide vote. Luka actually became just the second European ever to win the award. And at 20 years old, he was already being compared to all-time greats for his immediate impact. But amongst all the accolades and the media coverage, Doncic remained humble, and he just focused on getting better. He actually joked about struggling to wake up early for practices and having to adjust to the demanding NBA travel schedule. But on the court, he was all business. He still had to work on his conditioning and learning the nuances of NBA defenses, but he was cooking everyone. You could see his joy for the game. Whether it was a smile after a big shot or a shimmy after a made basket, he was a fan favorite not just in Dallas, but across the league. The Mavs knew they had struck gold. Everyone wanted a glimpse of the Wonder Boy. Crowds of fans began gathering at hotels on road trips, just hoping for his autograph. In a matter of months, Doncic had gone from a draft day question mark. Yes, there were people on draft day that were questioning whether a teenager from Slovenia can really turn around an NBA team, to one of the brightest young stars in basketball. Doncic's stellar rookie year was only the beginning. In his second NBA season, he took his game to an even higher level. He was quickly transforming from a rising star to a full-fledged superstar. He started the season with a bang. Throughout November 2019, he averaged a near triple-double, at one point posting 30-plus points in 5 straight games. And he wasn't just scoring, he was also getting double-digit assists, something only LeBron James had done at that age. At just 20 years old, he was putting up video game numbers. His performances were so good that it earned him a starting spot in the 2020 NBA All-Star Game, making him one of the youngest All-Stars ever. By the end of that season, his stats were MVP caliber: 28.8 points, 9.4 rebounds, and 8.8 assists per game. He was at the top for all 3 categories, showcasing just how well-rounded he was. But more importantly, Luka had led the Dallas Mavericks back to the playoffs for the first time in 4 years. Now, the 2020 playoffs, they were strange. They were held in a bubble environment in Orlando due to the pandemic. Thanks a lot, Rudy Gobert, for touching those mics. But this gave Doncic his first opportunity to shine on the postseason stage. And well, he did not disappoint. Matched up against the powerhouse Clippers in the first round, the 21-year-old Luka delivered a playoff performance for the ages. The defining moment came in Game 4 of that series on August 23rd, 2020. Doncic was playing on a sprained ankle, and the Mavs were without his co-star, Kristaps Porzingis. Yet Luka, he put the team on his back. He recorded a monster 43 points, 17 rebounds, and 13 assists triple-double that night. The game ended up going into overtime, tied at 133 in the final seconds. Well, with 3.7 seconds remaining in overtime, and the Mavs down by 1, Luka caught an inbound pass. He took a couple of quick dribbles to his left, stepped back behind the three-point line, and launched a deep 3. The ball hung in the air for what felt like an eternity, then splashed through the net. Bang! Buzzer beater. Luka's miracle shot won the game 135-133, tying the series. Mavs fans had just seen something special. At 21 years old, he had already gotten himself a legendary playoff moment, one that instantly entered him into NBA history and was replayed on highlight reels around the world. The basketball world now fully understood what Mavs fans already knew. Luka Dončić lives for the big moment. That shot really put Doncic on the map as an NBA superstar. The Mavs would eventually lose that hard-fought series in 6 games to the Clippers. Not really a surprise, the Clippers were in a win-now situation. It would have been embarrassing for them to go out in the first round having just spent all that money on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. But Doncic's heroics in the bubble signaled that a new star was on the rise. Luka had already been named in the All-NBA first team twice, joining an elite company of players as one of the youngest ever to receive that honor, and he had proven that he could go toe-to-toe with the league's best in the pressure of the playoffs, and he was only getting started. The 2021 season brought more of the same brilliance from Doncic. Now in his 3rd year, he constantly delivered jaw-dropping stat lines. He had games of 40-point triple-doubles, more buzzer beaters, and mesmerizing passes that really cemented his status as one of the NBA's most exciting players. By this time, Luka Magic had become a common phrase, and it was the perfect way of describing the seemingly magical ways that Luka found impossible shots or passes out of nowhere. He ended up being an all-star and in the All-NBA again. Then came the playoffs, where Luka would meet the Clippers in a rematch from the year before. This time, he raised his game even higher, averaging over 35 points per game in the series and dropping 46 points in a do-or-die Game 7. His Game 7 performance was brilliant, but ultimately Dallas fell short again, losing the series in 7. It was a bitter end to an otherwise incredible season, and it highlighted a challenge that Luka had to face. His individual greatness was unquestioned, but he was going to need a lot more help if the Mavs wanted to make a deep playoff run. But again, his individual greatness, it was incredible. At just 22 years old, Doncic had already achieved things many players only dream of. By 2021, he had 2 All-NBA first team selections, 2 NBA All-Star selections, and he had 1 NBA Rookie of the Year. He was breaking records seemingly every week. He was the fastest player to get to 30 career triple-doubles, the youngest to score 5,000 points and get 1,500 assists. His blend of scoring, playmaking, and rebounding drew comparisons to LeBron James and Larry Bird. But Luka was carving out his own identity, a charismatic Slovenian who played with joy but also with a competitive fire. Considering how much he loves to talk trash and the fact that he's white, it's not really a surprise that he gets compared to Larry Bird, another player who was a cold-blooded killer. Heading into 2022, Doncic had established himself as one of NBA's elite players. The question was no longer if he would win a championship someday, but when. The next chapter of his journey would test that promise, as Luka set his sights on taking the Mavericks further than they had since the Dirk Nowitzki era. The 2022 season marked a turning point in Luka Doncic's journey. It was a year that would test him significantly, but would also elevate his status even further. Early that season, the Mavs had made a change. A new head coach had come in, Jason Kidd. Kidd was brought in to challenge Luka to lead by example on both ends of the floor. Doncic responded by coming into the season in better shape and refining his already stellar game. He continued to put up MVP level numbers, casually dropping 30-point triple-doubles and dazzling with his clutch plays. But Luka's true brilliance emerged when it mattered the most, the postseason. In the first round of the 2022 NBA playoffs, the Mavs faced the Utah Jazz. Doncic unfortunately missed the first few games of the series due to a calf injury, but he returned in Game 4 and immediately made his presence felt, helping Dallas win the series in 6 games. It was the franchise's first playoff series victory since their championship run in 2011, and Luka averaged nearly 30 points in that series, even while working back from an injury. With that hurdle cleared, a bigger test awaited in the second round, the Phoenix Suns. They had the league's best record and were heavy favorites to win the title, especially since they had made it to the finals the year before. What followed was a stunning display of Doncic's talent and his ability to cook anybody. The showdown with Phoenix went to 7 games, but Luka, he loved the battle. The Suns took an early 2-0 lead, and some of their players, well, they already started chirping and trash talking. Doncic, known for playing with a smile but also having a competitive edge, famously walked off the court after one of those losses, saying, a subtle warning that the series was far from over. And this is what makes Doncic so special. He backed up those words. Dallas fought back win by win, forcing a Game 7 in Phoenix for all the marbles. And in that deciding game, on May 15, 2022, Luka delivered an all-time performance. This guy was laser focused, casually draining his first 3 shots to set the tone. By halftime, the Mavs had stunned the home crowd. They were up 57-27, and Luka himself had 27 points by halftime. Yes, he had as many points individually as the Phoenix Suns had as a team. It was a spanking that few saw coming. Doncic was smiling ear to ear on the court, enjoying every moment of the Suns' disbelief. He finished the night with 35 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, and had made Devin Booker his son. Dallas blew out Phoenix 123-90 to win Game 7, a result that honestly shocked the entire basketball world. As the final buzzer sounded, Luka's grin said it all.
You can't get this smile off my face right now. I'm just really happy, you know. Honestly, I think we deserve this.
This man had talked the talk and walked the walk. It was a monumental upset, and Doncic and the Mavs found themselves heading to the Western Conference Finals. Advancing to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in Luka's career, and the Mavericks' first time since their 2011 championship, Doncic was now among the NBA's elite. At 23 years old, he had already carried his team deep into the playoffs. But in the finals, they had to face the Golden State Warriors, a battle-tested dynasty led by Steph Curry. Now, Luka had some spectacular games, including a 40-point effort in Game 2, but the Warriors' experience proved too much. The Mavs fell in 5 games. It was a tough exit, yet even in defeat, Doncic earned respect far and wide. The guy had averaged about 32 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists in a conference final series. What more could he have done? Warriors players and coaches praised his skills, acknowledging that they had thrown every sort of defensive scheme possible at Luka, and he still got his numbers. Although Dallas didn't make it to the NBA Finals, Luka's 2022 playoff run solidified his reputation as a generational player. He had proven that he could be the best player on a team contending for a title. Walking off the court after the final game of the West Finals, Luka was disappointed but optimistic. In just 4 NBA seasons, he had climbed from a lottery pick to now a conference finals appearance. He had also grown as a leader, learning to trust his teammates more, shouldering more responsibility, and handling the weight of expectations. While the 2022 playoffs run was a major milestone, Doncic was hungry for more. As he told reporters, his goal was to win a championship. That's what he always chases. His journey was now entering a new phase, with sky-high expectations at every turn. By the 2023 season, Doncic had reached full-fledged superstardom. Each night in the NBA, he delivered performances that left fans and analysts searching for words to describe it. The young kid from Slovenia was now routinely mentioned in MVP debates, and he was continuing to add his name in the history books. A great example being what happened on December 27, 2022. The Mavs were facing the New York Knicks in Dallas, and Luka produced a game for the ages, something that the NBA had literally never seen before. He scored a franchise record 60 points, grabbed 21 rebounds, and dished out 10 assists in an overtime win. It was the first time in NBA history that a player had a 60-point, 20-rebound, 10-assist triple-double. Even more unbelievable was how he did it. Dallas trailed by 9 points with only 33 seconds left in regulation, yet Doncic willed his team back, scoring and assisting to trim the lead. With the Mavs down by 2 and just seconds remaining, Luka intentionally missed a free throw, grabbed the rebound, and in a mad scramble, somehow put in a buzzer-beater floater to tie the game. As the arena exploded in celebration, Luka jumped around with joy. He thought they had won the game, not realizing it was just a tie. "I thought we won it," he admitted later after the match, laughing at himself once he realized overtime was still to come. In overtime, he added the finishing touches to secure the win. The stat line was so surreal that even Doncic was a bit awestruck.
60 points, 20 board.
I'm tired as hell.
You can rest later, you're young.
I need a recovery beer.
The performance drew comparisons to Wilt Chamberlain, although at least for Luka's performance we have video evidence. Come on Wilt, we got black and white footage of everything, but now your 100-point game? What we had witnessed that night was Luka magic in its purest form. The ability to bend the game to his will and deliver what seemed impossible. That season, Luka seemed to produce magic on a nightly basis. He had a 51-point game on Christmas, a string of 30-plus point games that challenged long-standing records, and countless clutch moments where he put Dallas on his back. He finished the season averaging 32.4 points, 8.6 rebounds, and 8 assists per game, competing for the league's scoring title until the final week. Unfortunately, he ended up finishing second. Despite his heroics though, the season had its challenges. The Mavs had made a blockbuster mid-season trade for superstar guard Kyrie Irving to give Luka some help. There were flashes of brilliance from the new duo, but also growing pains as the team adjusted and struggled with injuries. In a highly competitive Western Conference, Dallas actually missed the playoffs in 2023, a disappointing outcome after highs of the previous year. For Luka, missing the postseason was unfamiliar territory. He expressed frustration, taking the blame on himself and promising to come back better. Critics wondered if the heavy workload was sustainable, and if the Mavs could actually build the right team around this generational player. Through it all though, Luka remained as competitive as ever. Internationally, he also continued to shine. In the summer of 2021, he led Slovenia on a stunning run to the country's first ever Olympic basketball tournament, where he dropped 48 points in his debut and led Slovenia to a 4th place finish in Tokyo. And then in EuroBasket 2022, he scored an incredible 47 points in one game, the second highest total in the tournament's modern in history. These performances elevated his status internationally even more. As the 2023-2024 NBA season approached, Doncic used the offseason to rest and refocus. He had already achieved more by the age of 23 than most players do in their entire career. Multiple All-NBA selections, All-Star appearances, and record-setting performances. But the sting of missing the playoffs really fueled him. Luka was determined to lift the Mavs back into title contention and continue chasing that ultimate prize, the Larry O'Brien Trophy. Every new season, Doncic seemed to raise the bar of what he can achieve, and the 2023-2024 season was no exception. From the beginning, Luka played with a renewed sense of purpose, a blend of maturity and urgency that comes to young superstars who know their time is now. The results, well, they were spectacular. Doncic went on a scoring tear, putting up monster numbers consistently, and by season's end, he led the NBA in scoring, averaging around 32 points per game. In doing so, he became the first European player ever to win the NBA scoring title. Night after night, Luka's name was at the top of the scoring leaderboard, showcasing his ability to score from literally anywhere. Step back threes, post-ups, fadeaways, crafty drives, and an endless array of floaters and layups. His playmaking didn't suffer at all. He still remained among the league's leaders in assists, while still scoring at an elite level. With several triple-doubles along the way, he also became the Mavericks franchise leader in career triple-doubles by early 2024. Funny enough, he actually surpassed Jason Kidd's team record. Wonder how Kidd felt about that, coaching someone that's breaking your record. But more importantly though, Doncic's individual brilliance was actually translating into team success. The Mavs, who are now retooled and re-energized, climbed the standings. Thanks to some more moves to put more help around Luka and Kyrie, the Mavs look like a brand new team. As a result, Luka's sights were set on the postseason and making a deep run once again. This team was much better than the 2022 team that he had carried all the way to the Western Conference Finals. Well, in the 2024 NBA playoffs, Doncic reminded everyone why he belongs on the biggest stage. The Mavs stormed through the Western Conference. In the first round, he bodied the Clippers, a team that has been feeling his wrath for years. Then in the second round, he dominated the Thunder. They just couldn't guard him. In the Western Conference Finals, Dallas faced a Minnesota team that had just knocked out the defending champions. Luka, though, was spectacular throughout the entire series, and in the clinching game, he erupted for 36 points, 20 of them in the first quarter, to propel Dallas into the NBA Finals. If Luka is cooking and on fire in the first quarter, you have no chance of winning. As the final seconds ticked away in the conference final, Luka hugged his teammates and pumped his fist to the sky. He was headed to his first NBA Finals. After coming so close in 2022, Luka finally got his opportunity. The 2024 NBA Finals saw the Mavs take on the Boston Celtics, a franchise that was looking for its 18th championship, a team stacked with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White. It was almost like an all-star team. Meanwhile, for Dallas, it was their first finals appearance since their title win in 2011, and only the third in the team's history. The spotlight, though, was all on Doncic. Could the 25-year-old perform against the stacked Celtics team? Luka didn't shy away from the spotlight. He embraced it. Throughout the final series, he led all the players in points and rebounds, really stuffing the stat sheet. His playoff run was so prolific that he finished as the leading scorer of the entire 2024 playoffs, and also the leading rebounder. In the finals games, Boston threw multiple defenders at him, quick guards, big centers, but Luka still found ways to dissect the defense, whether it was a little floater or the perfect pass to an open teammate. But ultimately though, the Celtics were too stacked, and the Mavs fell short in the finals. They had better depth, more experience, just simply more talent. I mean, Doncic had a triple-double in Game 2 and averaged nearly 30 points in the finals, yet the Mavs still lost in 5. As the confetti fell for Boston, the criticism around Luka Dončić began. For all of his brilliance during the playoff run, Doncic found himself at the center of a storm. Analysts and pundits, many of which had hailed him as the next face of the league, turned their focus to his flaws. They questioned his defensive effort, pointing to lapses in rotation and sluggish closeouts. His conditioning was brought into the spotlight again, with some arguing that fatigue caught up to him late in games. And then of course there was the constant chirping at referees, moments where Luka let his frustration get the better of him. The tipping point came in Game 3, when Luka fouled out with just over 4 minutes left in the middle of a must-win game. The Mavs needed their star, but instead he was watching from the bench, draped in a towel, helpless as the game slipped away. Critics weren't just questioning his performance, they were questioning his leadership. For the first time in his career, Luka Dončić wasn't being celebrated, he was being challenged. But for a player who's always responded best under pressure, the criticism might have been the spark. The move to LA shocked Luka. I mean, it shocked all of us. It was so shocking that people thought Shams was hacked when he reported the news. But instead of looking back, Luka has looked forward, and he's embraced the challenge of living up to the legends who once wore the purple and gold. Not many players get the chance to wear the Lakers jersey. Even fewer rise to the moment. But Luka, he looks like he was built for it. Even his father agrees. What makes Luka's story so compelling is not just the stats or the award, but the emotional journey and the joy he brings to the game. We watched him grow from a shy, mop-haired teenager into a confident leader who loves the pressure of a last-second shot. We've seen the smile on his face after hitting a game winner, and the determination in his eyes when he's in attack mode. Just ask Devin Booker. Those who know him often mention his work ethic and love for basketball. He's always been a hard worker, even though at times he looked a little chunky. That relentless drive, combined with the fact that he's a once-in-a-generation talent, means that Luka is destined for absolute greatness. His journey also reflects the globalization of basketball. He carries the pride of Slovenia every time he steps onto the court. When he became the first European scoring champion in NBA history, it wasn't just a personal milestone, it was a moment of pride for fans from Ljubljana to Madrid to Dallas. He is proof that the road from a small European country to NBA superstardom is possible with enough dedication and skill. Every step of the way, Luka has shattered expectations. Too young, not athletic enough, can't defend, fat. He's heard it all, and each time he's answered it with new achievements or a breathtaking performance. As one of his former coaches said during Luka's teenage years, you can't learn this. It's impossible. What Doncic has is rare. The great thing is that his story is still being written. The next chapter with LA is ripe with possibility. He's already tested the NBA Finals. Now it's about returning there and actually winning it all. An MVP trophy also seems to be inevitable if he continues on this trajectory. And now more than ever, he's got an even bigger chip on his shoulder. He has to prove the doubters wrong. Well, what better place to do it than the City of Stars, the franchise of legend. Dallas was supposed to be his forever home, but basketball, like life, doesn't always follow the script. Some call it betrayal, Luka just calls it motivation. Now, wearing the purple and gold under the blinding lights of Hollywood, he has the chance to write something even bigger, to follow in the footsteps of icons. In LA, the pressure is heavier, the spotlight is brighter, but for a player who's built a reputation of shining on the biggest stage and performing in moments that matter the most, this might be where Luka Dončić was always meant to be. A new city, a new jersey, but the same fire, and a legacy that's far from finished.